let's get into this time-shifted magic, Drake. I'm excited to see what we have here. Speaking of Yogg, we have Harrison Fang, staple of the NRG series on Azorius Hammer versus Yagmoth. Drake, how excited are you to see this one? Who do you think's favored?
I'm very excited. This is not actually a matchup I'm intimately familiar with it. Despite both these decks kind of being around for a lot of this modern format, this isn't a matchup I've seen play out a whole ton. And it seems like, it can really go either way. Yagmoth, obviously the namesake deck for Wayne, seems like it would be really good in play, right? Like once it's in play, you're able to just snipe down all of the hammer things, no combo necessary, and you can just, keep the hammer deck from ever getting a hammer on any single creature. But without Yagmoth, without the namesake card, I have to imagine that hammer's got to be pretty tough for the Yagmoth deck to slog through, because a lot of their removal spells otherwise are pretty slow. Things like Grist and like their blocks are all on the ground. There's not a lot of great interaction for the Yagmoth deck against the hammer deck.
Yeah, it's a little weird where a key card in the matchup sometimes is Shadowspear, because sometimes you just you bonk them for 10 with an Ornithopter and then it can't fly anymore, right? And you're just like, attack. And they're like, block with the Young Wolf. Block.
Yeah, we can do this again.
yeah.
Undying trigger.
And it's kind of like, all right, I've got like a fog ×2 lined up. And so it is a matchup that's a little tricky and a little complicated, but I agree with your assessment that if Yagmoth comes down, it is not tricky. It is not complicated. If a hammer isn't already involved, it is over. And so there's a lot of pressure on Harrison to set up a card like just honestly anything with a hammer and just sort of try to hope to ride that to victory. And unfortunately for Harrison, some of his key cards in other matchups are just total blanks in this one, like Esper Sentinel.
Right. And I mean, Harrison, very much agreeing with you with the turn one Steelshaper's gift, finding a hammer. Saga here, a good follow-up as well. You mentioned Shadowspear can be a big player in this matchup, and Saga can do a good job of finding that one as well, as Stoneforge Mystic also can do a good job of finding the equipment. So Hammer kind of firing on all cylinders here. Didn't actually deploy any attackers on turn one, but does have a hammer already dialed up. Kaldra Compleat is the find off of Stoneforge Mystic, and Wayne looking like we might be stuck on one land plus the goods. We played turn on Birds of Paradise. I think a Wall of Roots is the follow-up.
Yeah, it is a Wall of Roots. Yeah, it looks like we're on the old one landy. I didn't quite see what Harrison grabbed there, but my guess was he was going to probably grab a Kaldra Compleat. Did you see what he grabbed?
Yeah, it was a Kaldra Compleat. It was the sketch Modern Horizons.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, my screen flickered for a second combined with the sketch, and it's just like, that's not a magic card. That's an altar. But
I mean, that'd be cool as well. Yeah. As 3 mana able to be made here, and there is the Grist, the Hunger Tide for Wayne. That one can threaten to pick off this Stoneforge Mystic, but does cost one of Wayne's mana sources, as you are required to sacrifice a creature if you want to kill something with that -2. So we may see a plus here, but yeah, no, actually, Wayne decides it is worth it. Sacrifices that Birds of Paradise to that Grist -2 to take care of the Stoneforge Mystic as we go back to Harrison Fang. Grist, a nice pickup for this Yagmoth deck.
Yeah, and this is so funny, too. You mentioned, okay, there's not a lot of removal if you don't have Yagmoth, right? And it's like, well, if you play Yagmoth and you sacrifice both your lands when you've been stuck on lands, fine, I won't get a Kaldra. Unfortunately, Grist is kind of like, what if we met in middle? And unfortunately, the middle is really bad news for Harrison, as now he's stuck with a Kaldra Compleat in a hand that he can't quite really use. And that's to figure out how he's going to navigate and try and maximize the time he has while Wayne is stuck on resources and stuck on lands.
Absolutely. I mean, Wayne having to sacrifice a mana source that he's very low on in order to make that play happen. Harrison now, because of that, maybe has some time to start letting these this second Saga go to work, start making some construct tokens, and developing mana with something like Springleaf Drum you could get off of the first Saga to just keep the flow of the constructs going. That way you can eventually stick a Shadowspear with the second one and punch through for lethal. But because Wayne had to sacrifice a key part of his game plan in order to make all this happen, Harrison actually has a little bit more time in order to start getting these Urza Sagas producing constructs. You can get a good look there. That second ability makes a 0/0 construct token, which of course has +1/+1 for each artifact you control, a minimum of 1/1 because you will presumably control the construct itself. As Grist, the uptick does not hit another Grist, so only one insect token made for Wayne. And we'll see if he found another source of mana.
It doesn't look like he does, but he does have a Young Wolf, and we're getting really close to Court of Calling range. And if we can Court of Calling for a Yagmoth, that will get the job done.
Absolutely. As here is the first Karnstruct. Yeah, sure. Karnstruct made for Harrison. And we're going to take a draw step. Both sagas rolling up. Looks like we may have a action here.
Yeah, stop me if you've heard this one before. I'll draw and respond to my Saga trigger as the Hammer player. It's like, yeah, we get it. You're going to respond. You always do.
It looks like we're floating a mana here. The first one's going to tick out. The second one's going to make a mana and go grab an artifact that costs specifically 0 or 1. It does not care about converted mana cost. It cares about specific mana costs, something that was very confusing on the spoil of Urza's Saga. So we'll
Less
see exactly
Lotus Bloom be a problem.
A lot of options here.
Yeah. We would have had, imagine Modern with Urza Saga, but Lotus Bloom can get grabbed here,
Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, it just goes and grabs a Black Lotus. Yeah.
Yeah. Ad nauseum might finally have had its day.
Yeah, come on. There has to be something better to do with a Black Lotus than ad nauseum.
Probably, but, it's a good meme if not. Looks like we're thinking about maybe we're kind of pointing at the Grist. I wonder if we have a main deck Pithing Needle for Harrison, and that is kind of what we're thinking about.
Yeah, let's take a look here. I see we have Nettlecyst, Shadowspear, Kaldra Compleat, Springleaf Drum, Colossus Hammer. Pretty low on options as far as actual artifacts go. You could grab like Ornithopter, Gingerbrute stuff if you need an attacker. You can grab the Springleaf Drum if you need mana. And of course, the Colossus Hammer, not terribly good here, but typically an option if you already have something like Sigarda's Aid in play, as Gingerbrute is the grab.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if maybe Harrison has plans to get Shadowspear on the next turn, because I would imagine that's a card that's pretty good here, lets you push through against the Grist. But it looks like Harrison's using Springleaf Drum, so it makes sense to grab the creature here to kind of maximize the mana on this turn and use as much of it as we can.
Absolutely. It maybe signals that Harrison doesn't actually have a third real land here. Rather, I guess it's a fourth, given Urza's Saga was already sacrificed. So needs the mana with the second Urza Saga going away next turn and Springleaf Drum already in hand. As a Puresteel Paladin added to the next. That's pretty good with the hammer that's already in hand. We know about that one.
Yeah, that's huge. And he's going to get to draw a card when the hammer's played here off the Paladin trigger. And if we rip a land, we can equip for free and then make our Gingerbrute unblockable and swing for 11 at something. Probably face.
And that looks like there is a land. Yeah, it's Saga number 3. That's a good land to have. And like you mentioned, we can equip that Colossus Hammer to the Gingerbrute, which we just did. And then, like you mentioned, activate. You got no hasters, right? All right, well, here we go. Funnily enough, that means Wayne needs to draw something like a Strangleroot Christ, something with haste in order to actually be able to block this.
Yeah, and considering the Saga is actually about to pop, I'm going to correct myself here. We'll probably just kill the Grist, and then, this way, next turn, the Grist can't kill the Puresteel Paladin, and so you're not able to get across there. But maybe we are just going to go face and just not worry about it. It looks like we are quarter calling for a Dryad Arbor here, would be my guess, since it's from 0. And trying really hard to get a land, just down bad for a mana source.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne definitely been the texture of this game for him is just being behind on mana the entire time. And so Dryad Arbor, likely not going to be interested in blocking at basically any point. And instead, just looking to actually get Wayne developed on mana. And Wayne still has the potential to draw something like Yagmoth, just straight up play something like Yagmoth, and really get the train rolling as far as removal spells, and potentially even comboing with one Undying creature already in play. So, as much as Wayne looks very, very behind right now, dead on board to this Gingerbrute, just took a huge hit. There are draw steps with mana, maybe a little bit less of an issue now, that allow Wayne to get back in this game and maybe even just win it outright.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be the case, as we're seeing Wayne kind of lining things up and needs to have a lot of it here, because even if we go and kill this Gingerbrute here by sacrificing our young wolf, we get the young wolf back from Undying. Well, when that Saga pops, we can go grab that Shadowspear that I talked about, the all-important one. And if we just equip both of those to the Urza construct, I'm pretty sure that's a 16/16 lifelink trample, and we do not have a huge amount of toughness that isn't tied up in creatures that we kind of need. So we maybe get to block with everything and then have no mana for the next turn.
Yeah, we see a Strangleroot Geist as the follow-up, and I think that has to be part of the plan here is some crazy blocks of these Wall of Roots and stuff like that in order to stay alive. And this is a tough way to do it. Having Grist have to take care of the Gingerbrute, and then this Puresteel Paladin is the thing you actually want to hit, but gets to stay in play. Not great, not a great spot to be. As this second Urza Saga is going to reach its third chapter. think we saw a mana floated there as we go and find a 0 or 1 mana artifact. Did we just fail to find?
No,
What
we just
did
grabbed another hammer.
No, we found a second hammer. There it is. It entered play very fast for me.
Yeah.
All right. So second hammer added to the mix. That can maybe spread out onto another creature. No Shadowspear already. It looks like maybe Shadowspear's already in hand. There you go.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. That's why we didn't grab it maybe before, and we already had a hammer lined up and everything. And so, yeah, now we're seeing, all right, put everything on this construct. It's really, really big. And we're going to see an attack here for what I believe is lethal, since it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 26, 26 lifelink trample. And we have 6 life and not 20 toughness. So
yeah, I think we need like what, 21 toughness or whatever. So this looks to be lethal. What's on board, provided there's no force of vigors or any kind of crazy one-ups or anything, any kind of crazy quarter calling targets. This looks to be it. As you know, Harrison delivering the news of exactly how large this creature is. That looks like it's going to be enough to dispose of Wayne here. And wow, what a game.
What a game. And, that was a time-shifted match. So, unfortunately, there was a deck registration error for our Yagmoth players. So, they actually got a game loss in game number 2. So, Harrison, congratulations on being 2-0 and winning your first round. Starting off 1-0 in the tournament is really exciting for Harrison. So, we're going to have that be the end of our first round of Modern coverage. Don't worry, we're about to have some more Modern coverage in just a couple minutes here. But first, Drake, let's kind of look at the prize pool and kind of see what our players are playing for today.
Absolutely. So yesterday was our Pioneer 10K trial. Today is our Modern 5K trial. So you get a good look there. First place, $1,200, 20 points. And this leaderboard race has been extremely tight. So those points worth quite a lot to many of our players. Second, $600, 18 points. Third and fourth, $400, 15 points. So a little bit of fall off on points there, but still quite a bit. Fifth through eighth, $200 and 12 points. And then, of course, down from there, paying out all the way through the top 32. But points go even further than that.
Yeah, and the points are what a lot of the top players on our leaderboard are playing for. We see Connor Maley, Zach Allen, Jesse Robkin. They're all playing this weekend despite basically being locked for Energy Championship, because being Player of the Year is just really cool. Saying you're the Player of the Year or something, getting the plaque, getting the free entry to the events, and also for our Energy Champs, getting to move people around the pods, which we'll get more into when we get to that part of the tournament. But basically, you get to say like, hey, you know what? I think Drake Sasser has brought a deck I cannot beat for this tournament. Push Drake out of the pod. I think I can crush that Jesse Robkin, get in my pod. And you pull her in. And that is what players are playing for in this event. And that is a big, big edge when you're playing for the championship, like something like that. And these leaderboard points really matter. And Drake, you and I played a bunch of the SCG circuit back in the day. The points are what matter, right? Like, this is the exciting part. You get to go out to these events, and even if you kind of have a bad weekend, maybe you get 32nd or whatever, which is still a fine finish. You get those 4 points. You do that through the whole year, and you might still be in our Energy Champs at the end of the year.
Absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned, I've done this kind of grind before, and for me, the points are worth way more than the money most of the time, because I'm in it for those leaderboard points, I'm in for those payouts, I'm in for the championships. So a lot on the line for these players, especially our NRG mainstays, and for those of the people playing for their first time, there's still quite a bit of money on the line as well. So a lot going on here in our Modern 5K. Very excited to see how this tournament plays out.
Yeah, and if you want to make Energy Champs, there's still one more chance. You want to go down to our Louisville Showdown just 2 weeks from today, Drake. We're going to have a Modern 15K in Louisville. So if you're unfamiliar with our Showdown events, basically what this means is, hey, you win one of these, you go straight to our championship event. So it's just like, one of our normal events, except $5,000 more in prize pool, which means a lot more money for the players, a lot more NRG points as well. So if you're at large, we have extra points we're giving out this weekend. It's a good way to kind of catch back up, maybe sneak in to our championship. But if you win it, you're straight in. Drake, if you and I show up, we don't have that many points. We've been in the booth the whole season. Doesn't matter. We win that thing, we are in Mundelein and on January 13th, battling it out for all the money and glory for the NRG Champs.
Hey, maybe we should show up. I think Louisville is actually some of the furthest south I've ever seen the Energy Series go. So huge shout out to them, expanding, trying to make this more accessible to more people around the country. Really awesome stuff to see. And like I said, this is one of the closest ones to me. Maybe I will actually make it out there. I'll get in the trenches, spike it. Let's do it, Mason.
It's 2 hours from my house, baby. If you want to commute, you can park your car here or dridrive on up, man. We can show the kids how it's done.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's show these NRG grinders. They don't know what it's like back in the day. We went to tournaments uphill both ways, Drake. But hey, you know what? We have more Modern coming up, but first, we got to get a little break. So go get some water, get some snacks. Be right back here. We'll be back in just 2 minutes with more Modern action.